Okay, this channel is about game development. That's what I'm doing, that's what I want to do. So let's get to it. Some of the stuff's going to be a little repetitive. So I'm trying to establish a workflow. At the moment I'm busy texturing. Because these eyes will share the same UVs, I'm just going to drop this guy. And export these UVs. And then texture them in Substance. Let's see. First I have to split the teeth and the gums here, because currently they're sharing the same UVs. For the upper and lower gums and teeth, and that's a problem. Because there's overlap. It's gonna be really bad. So I need to separate these quickly by creating new textures, or new materials rather, so that when I export it to Substance it'll be separate materials. I haven't named these things very creatively. These things being fish. So I'll first do, let's say, the gums. Create lower gum. It's going to be pinkish or reddish. So a lot of the stuff will be repetitive, because this is the part of the process that I'm in now. So I try and work in batches, batch a lot of stuff up. And makes the workflow, makes it go a bit quicker. Right, do we need teeth? So I'm just going to rename these guys here. This is going to be upper. I'll create a new one for the lower teeth. And then that's going to be white. And then I can assign the material to these guys. I've renamed these to upper, so I'm going to leave them and assign lower to the lower. Just inverting the selection, selecting the polygons and just assigning the material. Okay, so now if I go back to my UV view, they're separate, no longer together, using the same materials. Okay, so now I'm just going to export this and start texturing it in Substance. Some of my previous videos had a bit of a problem exporting to Unreal Engine. It doesn't like multiple root hierarchies or multiple root elements when you're exporting a skeletal mesh. So I'm just going to group this. Actually, I'm going to use just parent these, make these children of the main geometry. Still have to do a lot of work regarding the skinning and rigging, but I haven't got to that yet. For now I'm just going to focus on texturing. Let's export this as an FBX. I'm just going to call this UV. And then jump on over to Substance Painter. Once I've got a version of Unreal Substance Painter and Substance Designer that work together and I've started a game, I won't update until the game's done, because of backwards compatibility issues, or potential backwards compatibility issues. So I'm just selecting the UV mesh that I've just specified, default to 2K size for the texture, and I'm using the PBR physically based rendering with a color, normal, roughness, metallic and height settings. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Let's do the eye first. First I have to bake the textures. So what's gonna happen now, it's gonna calculate all these fancy substance maps. Ambient occlusion, curvature, position, all those things. Which are really useful if you're going to be using generators and things like that. Smart materials, so they'll know where the crevices, and they'll follow the curvature of the mesh. This is going to be very similar to what I've done previously, except I'm just going to be explaining a little bit more about the process. Baking takes a little while, just a couple of, well, about a minute or so. I think it's almost done. 80%. Okay. So for the eye, I'm just going to fill that with pearly kind of white. Almost what it is now. Just maybe a not so pearly. And then I'm going to drop down the shininess a bit. The white of the eye does need to be shiny, but I don't want it to be that shiny. Okay, and then I'm just going to copy this and use the same settings for the black and just change the color to black for the pupil and make it a little bit more shiny. Okay, now I like to do the mouth next. So I have to go inside here. Sometimes a little tricky to get inside the mesh, but should be able to orbit right inside of it. Okay, let's do the mouth. That's just gonna be the same settings, but a little bit more pink. Fish don't have pink mouths, I know. Mine does. A fish can also shoot stuff, possess other fish, teleport. They've got a lot of stuff they can do. That's all been done in game, so we'll get to that at some point. And the mouth I don't want really shiny, so I'm just going to drop it down a bit more. I think it's still a little too shiny actually. Okay, I'm just going to copy this and use this for the gums. And very important, save, save, save. These files are huge. They're typically around 300 or 400 megs. No, 200. Okay, let's do the teeth. For the teeth, I'm just going to copy the white of the eyes. And just use that same material. And what's nice about doing this once is I can reuse this make changes to these textures as I want or if I feel, and then just re-export them. We're going to take this to Substance Designer in 1 second, which is then going to be imported into Unreal Engine. And then that workflow will be, you change this, you re-import into Substance Designer, you re-export the SBSAR file, and the stuff will update. Just drop it into the same folder you had it in Unreal Engine, and it will update itself, which is really cool. Probably get to that too. Let's see. Now I want to do the fish itself. Save. The fish material itself. Okay. I have a few things here that I like to use that kind of works. I like to layer the materials on top of each other, so I usually start with the base fill, which is just the color that I'm gonna pick. When I look at some of the other ones that I've done, I make sure that they're a little bit different in color. With Substance Designer, you can dynamically change colors and add effects and things in game, but for this game I'm not going to do that. I'm still deciding if I'm going to be providing different kinds of fish using morph targets. I'll need to see. There's a few things I still first need to figure out regarding rigging controls and exporting that to Unreal Engine. So I'll have to do some research first before we get to that. So I'm kind of going for these bluish, greenish kinds of fish colors, or maybe, I don't know, snake color. So let's see, something I may or may not like. If it's too blue, it will fade in with the background. This is not underwater, this is just a test. I've got all the assets here together to test and see what they look like and see how they would work in game. I haven't actually constructed any of the real levels yet. I do have a few test levels. This is also playable, so there's a lot of stuff happening here. You can play the main character and test all the skills and abilities you have. That stuff has all been done before, but so this is the more the artistic workflow, or as artistic as I can be. So let's go for something a little darker. Okay, maybe a bit more green, slight blue, whatever this is. Drop down this shininess, I don't like it. Not for a base color. Otherwise it looks too plasticky. Save that. Okay, let's start adding some layers. This is usually a lot of fun. I like to start off with lizard scales for these guys. Set the projection to triplanar and just bump this up a little bit. Because I was using roadkill for the UV mapping, my UV scales are fairly similar across all of the fish. So it's good once you start establishing a bit of a workflow to reuse it, to draw from that. I'm gonna call this OK. Color's obviously wrong. Let's find that C color. I don't know what that cyan. Not sure what this is. And then we'll start playing with the layers a little bit more. I'm gonna get it a bit darker. Something like this. Okay. Give it a white mask, add some levels, and start mixing it. Because my lower layer is really light, it's going to wash out a lot of the detail of this one, so I don't really love this base color that much. Let's bring it down a bit darker. It's stuck. There we go. Okay. Save. Time for some more layers. Usually here I start playing with some smart materials. Let's drop in a smart material here and see if there's something I like. The fabrics are always good to get some detail in. Oh man, this is awesome. Let's try this. I haven't used this one yet. Ugh. I don't know if I want to mix this in, but let's try. First the colors. Need to play with the colors. Those black. Black shiny. What are those? Hexagons. Yeah, hexagons. I don't like that. It's gonna look weird. Really weird. Let's see if I can bump that down. I wonder if it's this fabric pattern. Oh, there we go. Hexagon pattern. Let's see if I can change this fill color. You can't always. This is probably some sort of mask base color. Okay, I'm gonna scrap this smart material. Let's see what happens when I mix it. Add some levels. I don't think this is gonna look cool. It's gonna clash because of those dark. No, it doesn't look. Trash it. Let's try something else. What is this? Worn leather. Ooh, I already like this. Put it in the wrong place. Yeah, there we go. Need to play with these colors a little bit. Color. There we go. Get some light in. Substance is working really hard now. Okay. Starting to like this a bit more. Maybe a little bit too light, but I'll take it. Add some white. White mask and some levels. Mix it in. See what we get. Okay, that'll work. Now I'm gonna add maybe a paint layer. A paint layer will be fun. I'm just gonna add some white, add some levels, drop it down a little bit so it starts mixing in as I'm painting. Nice big brush. Wacom tablet. And let's pick something that's cool. I think it's cool. I like this mortar wall. Now the color is going to be a problem. Definitely not this color. So I'll have to just guess a little bit. Let's make it a little darker. I think that's okay. It's gonna look maybe a little bit like that guy. A little bit lighter. And then I try not to do this using symmetry. Notice he still only has one eye. We don't need two eyes when we're doing this. We'll have two eyes when we take him into Unreal. Okay. And then just check the levels. See how this mix looks. Just to add a little color difference there. And also it has a pattern on it which makes it look a little bit scratchy, which I like. Still better looking than the first game. First game's texture is terrible. Okay, I'm gonna add one more layer because I feel like it. I'm gonna make this just another fill, and I want to use a really shiny metal. Let's go for plastic glass. Plastic glass. I don't like that. Silver pure. Okay. And then drop it down. It's definitely not metallic. Add some levels. This is just to give it a little bit of a shine, I think. But it can also whitewash the texture too much. So I literally only want a little bit of this. Almost makes no difference, but it will. I like those scratches across his face. I think we need some dirt. I'm not sure. Okay, usually when I'm not sure, then I'm just going to leave it for now. Let's export these textures, get them into Substance Painter. And you could spend so much time doing this. It's not done, but it's done for now. And so this is the folder I'm going to be exporting to. Takes a few seconds. Done. Now we're going to import this into Substance Designer. Doesn't look like much when you look at it like this, but it's all there. And from Substance Designer, it's going to go into Unreal Engine as an SBSAR, which is a Substance Archive, which will only be like, it'll be less than 7 megs, round about there, from 200 odd megabytes, and it will include all the textures as well. It's gonna look something like this, which you see here. Okay, so the first one I'm gonna do, this is also a little bit of a repetitive task, but that's why we do this, it's workflow. Just gonna start a new graph, whatever. I'm gonna link the model. If I don't link the model, then it won't know which material IDs to assign to, because this package will contain all of the materials for the entire mesh. So by bringing this in, always hides at the top, you can assign which material do you want this substance package to apply to, not this package, this graph, whatever. So just by double clicking on it, I'm selecting I want this applied to the fish 5 material. And now let's bring in the textures. I never import them because they're on disk, that's where I want them. And then just connect these nodes up. I know that's the normal and I know that's the base color. I'm pretty sure that's metallic. So for these two I have to click on them to see, because I can't really read that small print. So it goes base color, normal, base color, normal, roughness, metallic, and height. Once that's hooked up, I start saving it, otherwise bad things happen. Think of all the packages, Substance is the most stable. Oh, and Unreal Engine's not bad either. I'm just going to do exactly the same thing for these materials up here. So the black material, hopefully go a little faster. Once you've done this, you don't need to do it again. But if you do make changes to these textures, because I've linked them to the hard drive, you can just reopen the project, re-export your SBSAR Substance archive, and re-import it into Unreal Engine. Don't need to go through this again. So let's just connect these up quick. By white. So the normal, I think that's the base color, yep. Metallic is usually black, because for organic things you don't want them to have any metallic or metallic-like property, which will, metallic is just going to control reflection, and it's got a funny look. If you turn it really up high, it starts looking like polished metal, but just much worse. No fish looks like that. Who's next? Come lower. Alrighty. This is a very repetitive task. It's all about establishing the workflow, solving problems when things start going wrong. Luckily nothing's going wrong yet. Up it comes. Also notice I'm not flying around here and looking to see how it's connecting and how it's looking in Substance Designer. I'll check that when I import it into Unreal Engine. Navigating this small window here is a bit of a pain, so for now I just trust. I'm really just more worried about getting these connections done. That's more important. Mouth material. Okay, metallic, who's this? Height, bottom, roughness there. Connect them up. I'm not using any of Substance Designer's awesome functionality or capability. You can create dynamic textures, like things like dirt and grime over time, and you can update those values in-game. Unreal Engine has support for that, so you can talk to your Substance Designer material in-game, but for my game I'm not going to be doing that. Right, lower teeth. Naming convention is also pretty important. So by keeping them pretty standard, I know because teeth is specified before lower, it will group these together if you order them or sort them. So it just makes it also easier to find these when you're looking for them in a list. But sometimes you don't always want that, depending on what you're trying to do. Alright, one more to go. And that's the teeth upper material. And we'll take it to Unreal Engine. Metallic, uses height, bottom. Every time you import these, doesn't matter how you select them or whatever from Windows, they drop them and link them in a completely random order here. Right, we're done. Now all I need to do is export this as an SPSAR file and put it in the same folder. Fish 5. Export takes a few seconds. Right, it's done. Okay. Back to Maya. Need to get this eye back before I import it into Unreal, so I'm just going to duplicate this because the pivot's at the origin. Now we have the next problem. I don't want an instance of this eye, because I would want these eyes separate when I start rigging it. They have to be separate. So currently they're not. So you see the scale here of this eye, scale on X is set to -1. So we have two problems. The first is this guy needs to be an instance, not an instance. So I'm converting it from an instance to an object, which is important. But now the scale X is still -1. So we just have to freeze the transformations. And now it becomes an object on its own, but now the problem is the UVs are inverted. So these guys are sharing the same UVs and the same material, which is fine, because they're separate meshes, they'll be separate draw calls. But I don't want this red here, this is bad. If you're using normal maps, usually this won't be a problem actually. But if you're using normal maps, it's a problem, you can't do this. So I'm just going to select UV shell and just flip these UVs, and then just use repeat, Maya's repeat function. So I think the G key or whatever. Right, we're done. I don't like this name. Names are important. So let's export this. Before I can export this to Unreal Engine, this has to be a skeletal mesh. So I'm just going to rig it up using a very, very simple rig. I'm not even going to skin it, it's just going to be something really simple. So for that, because I can't delete history after I've done that, I don't want to mess up my file I'm still busy working with, so I'm just going to save this as something else. And I did it in the wrong folder, which is great. It has to go in here. And let's quickly fix that mistake. Okay. Make sure my history is clean before I rig, and let's drop a bone in here. I'm just gonna put it in the center, X-ray the bone, it should be in the center of the mesh. It doesn't really matter because this is just literally for testing. So I'm selecting all my meshes and joints and I'm binding it to a skin. I'm not gonna skin this now, and then I can just select the parent elements. If I delete history now, it would be bad. So I have another function here to delete non-deformer history. Let's export this as an FBX. My export options include skeletal and animation information. I don't have any animation on these, obviously. Fish5 SKM FBX, that's the one. Alrighty, let's go to Unreal Engine. Find my Fish5, he's here. This guy right here. And let's replace. And Unreal Engine should just replace him if everything worked. There's an error here, there's something I need to check. Taking its time. Oh, it didn't work. Let's see. Do this again. There we go. It failed. Let's see if I can get a better message. It doesn't see the skeletal mesh. I was afraid of that. So I did something wrong. Let's see. Just checking my export options. Okay, now it should be exporting skins as well. Well, that's interesting. Doesn't look like the skin cluster worked. It should have. Okay, let's see if I can get a message from Unreal about why it's complaining. If I just hit the import button here, because it's not automatically ticking skeletal mesh, so I know something's wrong. It should tell me. I have to do some debugging now. Oh, it crashed. Nice. Let's close this off. Okay, let's just close that. Obviously wasn't happy with something. Get the Maya scene back as well. Yep, things crash. Happens all the time. Okay, let's open up the right Maya scene. Okay. Come on. I'm gonna unbind the skin here. So just unbind the skin. Okay. I'll try this a bit differently. Just gonna join on the parent hierarchies. Bind on the parent hierarchies and see if that makes a difference. Select those two, export. Fish5 SKM FBX. Let's import it again and see if we get an error. Yeah, it's still not working. Should tell us why. I was not happy about something, about a hierarchy. It's not very clear. Interesting. Okay. Let's unbind the skin. Actually, I'm just going to redo this process. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to make sure my UV's alright. Okay, they look alright. They're not red. Okay. So let's just export now. Say this is an SKA. Just gonna export this as a static mesh to see if the static mesh export works fine for this guy. Just overwrite this for 1 second. I'm just importing it into a temporary location here. Still seems to think it's a skeletal mesh. It's definitely not working. Okay, let's see. Just not happy with something on this fish. It's gonna crash. Yeah, it's gonna crash. Oh, there we go. Oh, the static mesh worked. Okay. Just delete that. It has to be a skeletal mesh, otherwise I can't use it as a character. Of course. Okay. So the static mesh worked. Let's skin it up again. Show the bone, X-ray. I think I can just select the top level. Max influence 4. Yep, I'm not sure why this isn't working. Let's create a group, see what happens. Here we go. Unable to find the bind pose. Interesting. So it didn't like me grouping that. Let's see. Yeah, it's still not working. Let's unbind it again. Interesting. Not sure why this isn't working. If this doesn't work, I have one more thing I'm gonna try. I was hoping to avoid. Yeah, okay, there it's working, which is really weird. You can see now those things are ticked. So there's something in either the workflow that I'm doing or maybe potentially a bug. I'll need to. Okay, let's continue. So now if I drop this in here, it should update it. And there we go, right? So now let's get our SBSIR in here. Originally named Fish5 substance. Very, very original. Just need to drop the SBSIR file in and nothing else. It's only 7 megs from 249 megs. Great. Start hitting the import button here a few times. It's creating materials, unreal materials for each of the substance packages inside the archive. So if you have a mesh with 100 materials, you're going to press this button 100 times. What fun. Alright. Just going to select them all, just save it, and then reassign these old materials here. Were just stand-in materials, so now I can go and update this guy. With the proper material. Substance stuff comes in with _MAT caps, which I like. And everything goes to this grayish for a little bit while it's recompiling the shaders. Usually pretty fast. Now the mouth material, we need to go and check on the inside. Just give this a second to recompile. Alright. There's our substance material. Maybe would have liked it a little bit more shiny, but I think this will be okay. Let's go inside the mouth. Get these materials assigned. Fish5 teeth is actually this lower gums here, so I'm just going to make this Fish5 lower gums. Now, Fish5 gum material is this upper, or these, is this upper teeth here, or these upper teeth, not sure. Fish5 teeth upper, and these last two I'll just have to guess. So let's see, Fish5 lower. Okay, Fish5 lower. Let's try teeth first. And I won't know until it finishes compiling if it was right or not. And this must be upper. Ah, It looks like it was right. Okay, cool. Just the materials assigned. Okay, now we can save this. And there should be some changes to these materials here. Unreal will automatically go and set some properties as you apply them to meshes, stating what kind of material it is and what its purpose is and how it should be optimized and what it should be optimized for. Now the last part of the exercise, all I need to do now is I want to remove these old materials here because they're not used anymore. Don't need them. Let's trash them. And there shouldn't be any more further references to them in memory or anything. They should be able to delete fine. That's it. Awesome. So I think that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully this VOD won't get muted. Awesome. Thanks Twitch Music.